So I've spent the last 4 hours playing Where Winds Meet, and I still can't tell you exactly what this game is trying to be. One moment it does feel like the slickest Wuxia combat game since Sekiro. The next I'm drowning in MMO menus, some form of different mechanics, open world busy work. It is beautiful, very ambitious, and undeniably fun, but it has just a massive identity crisis. So in today's video, I'm going to break down the good, the bad, and the confusing to help you decide if this mashup of genres is actually worth your time. Visually, mechanically, and in terms of scope, this wuxia fantasy title from Everstone is absolutely gorgeous. The pre-registration numbers are quite massive. It blew past 10 million. The hype is very legitimate. I've been hyped for it ever since I saw the initial announcement trailer, but the question isn't if the game is good. The question is, what is this game? Right now, the game is being heavily marketed as an MMORPG, but if you actually dive into the structure, the actual engineering under the hood, you will realize that the MMO label is almost a straight up lie, or at the very least, a massive misrepresentation. This is not an MMORPG where you log in, level alongside hundreds of others in a persistent world, and do dungeons. This is a phenomenal, almost AAA action RPG that happens to just have a separate segmented multiplayer layer. The structural compromise they made to keep the action this good is the most controversial and yet the most fascinating part of this entire experience. So I want to dive into why the game you're seeing is actually two different games wearing one wuxia coat. So let's start with the immediate hook, the world. Where Winds Meet commits fully to the wuxia fantasy, dropping us into the turbulent historical period of China known as the Five Dynasties and the Ten Kingdoms era, right after the collapse of the Tang Dynasty. It is a setting tailor-made for high-stakes martial arts narratives and epic chaos. Pretty much anytime you see like a wuxia, like either TV or movie or anything like that, this is always the time period that it's going to be put in. The visual fidelity, though, is simply just top tier. The graphics are absolutely beautiful. The scenery is amazing. When you see like different boss fights and you look at different locations, the animation work is just polished and just genuinely visceral, definitely for those boss fights. This isn't one of those janky martial art games of the past that felt clunky or very low budget. The world feels massive, promising a playable map that covers over a large scale, and if I think I read correctly, it's like 20 square kilometers. But we do need to pay attention to the centerpiece, the city of Kaifeng. It's described as a sprawling ancient city alive with just light, sound, and story. Now, this particular area is actually quite a massive area because you're not even able to get to this unless you have leveled up your character's world level and as well as leveled up your character's actual level to level 32. It's an authentic RPG hub featuring an absurd promise. 10,000 NPCs, each supposedly with their own motivations. There's dueling, there's trading, there's befriending these characters, and your actions can shape how the city sees you. Now, this right here during my playthrough is right where the red flag pops up. The dynamic of the NPCs who track player actions, change the local world state, requires immense just computational power. This level of environmental simulation is quite a luxury. It is almost a hallmark of single player or small cooperative RPG servers where resources are dedicated to the player's immediate localized experience. A traditional MMO trying to support hundreds of thousands of players simultaneously in that same space simply cannot afford this level of NPC complexity and localized world reactivity. It tells you merely that the core design priority was the rich individual narrative, but not the persistent communal grind. Now, the absolute strongest argument for Where Winds Meet being an action RPG is just combat system. It's not just good, it's aggressively, unapologetically good. Now, for all of you who are fans of From Software titles like myself, specifically touching base on Sekiro, you are going to feel very right at home, or hell, even like the new Sucker Punch's Ghost of Tsushima or even Ghost of Yote. The fighting is fast, fluid, demands high personal skill. The central mechanic, the core combat loop, revolves around precision parrying. You have a well-tuned mechanics, ambitious moveset, quite ambitious. Like, it's crazy how much different skills and abilities you can have, and it's crazy on this scale of level for Wuxia combat, leading to just a genuinely high ceiling. Now, they do make it more accessible than Sekiro, even offering a helpful prompt for parry timing, but the need for frame perfect or even near perfect timing on dodges and parries necessitates an extremely low latency environment. I've noticed definitely during my times when I was definitely playing that I was noticing some form of, like, I want to say like latency issues or a little bit of stuttering, but it just seemed like there was a lot definitely going on for this game, as well as it being an MMO. And this right here is when I start to find the structural problem for traditional MMOs. You cannot run this precision heavy Sekiro style combat system reliably when your server is trying to handle thousands of players across this very dense open world map. The mere existence of this responsive high-skill action proves the combat was designed around the low latency parameters of solo play or even small co-op groups. But let's talk a little bit about the weapons and systems depth, because you gotta look at it like this, man. You have access to quite a massive arsenal of classic Wuxia weapons, swords, spears, dual blades, rope darts, the bow, the fan, and yes, even surprisingly, a lethal umbrella. Character specialization is deep, split across 3 intertwined systems. First, we have the martial arts systems. Now, this particular system is very weapon dependent skills. The Panacea fan, for example, gives you purely healing skills, while the Nameless Sword focuses on staggering offensive attacks. You can carry 2 weapons at once, utilizing 4 skills per weapon and mastering all available types. Secondly, we have the Inner Ways. These are your passive abilities that are active during combat. Crucially, some are specifically linked to certain martial arts, forcing you to think strategically about some form of build synergy to maximize damage or defense. And third, we have mystic skills. These are your utility skills. They aid in strategic fighting, but also serve to solve environmental puzzles and unlock movement capabilities, such as very advanced parkour or gliding, or even the cloud steps, or even like just the crazy lightness movement abilities that you could be able to do. The game rewards intelligent exploration. I will say this, there's been too many times that I have gotten sidetracked doing multiple different side quests and getting sent on a whole new adventure versus my overall main quest. But let's take a look at the Cloud Steps Mystic Steel. You don't buy it from a vendor. You might have to perform a mighty drop, which is essentially doing a drop down attack onto a specific cracked stone pavement to reveal a secret underground passage. Use fire arrows to clear the path to the skill, and this is classic rewarding RPG progression, focusing on that individual journey, not the communal queue. While the combat is intricate and demanding, the early impressions of the secondary systems are where the prioritization of the ARPG core becomes painfully obvious. Life skills and professions are present as you would expect in any open world RPG, but I feel like they do lack the depth that you expect from a robust MMO economy. For instance, there's a healing minigame where you cure diseases using a card battler, and it's a kind of a Slay the Spire style back and forth. It is a clever idea, but the critique that I've seen online is that it doesn't evolve much and fails to provide meaningful rewards or progression in those initial hours of playing. Other activities like fishing, crafting, duels, scavenger hunts are definitely there. And not to mention, you also got to think about the skill theft, the ability to be able to watch an animal do something. And that's what I really liked about the Kung Fu side of things. As somebody who is a Kung Fu practitioner himself, I definitely understand a lot when it comes to playing these games. Watching the bear attack a tree and understanding how to attack like a bear, or watching tigers, or watching even the frog do its leap and you get to reenact it. That stuff like that really adds to that wuxia feeling and that martial arts side of things. But I feel like the side activities is something you will find in any generic open world RPG. They feel like a checklist feature to pad out the world, not deep, complex economic systems designed to drive a massive player base. The disproportionate development effort, where the action combat is Sekiro level intricate, but the early economy is basic, which is sending quite a crystal clear message. Your character's identity is defined by your sword skills and overall buildcraft, not by your mastery of the crafting bench or the global market. This is an action RPG focus, plain and simple. Now we have to talk about the structural anomaly, the definitive proof that this game is definitely more of a hybrid and not a traditional MMO. The game is officially an open world RPG with some MMO-like elements, but the separation of those elements is done quite surgically. Players can manually switch between two distinctive, non-seamless states. There is story mode and there is MMO mode. Now, I will be truthful here. I've only right now so far have played most of my playthrough on story mode. And so far, I've been really having a great time. But that is right there is where I started realizing that where in the world is the MMO? Like, where's that MMO feeling? Now, yes, you can see different players leaving messages on the ground, very similar to like Dark Souls, like trying to help people out with puzzles and stuff like that. But then I was like, but where's that MMO feeling? And that right there is the key. You have to manually toggle out of the core experience to enter the multiplayer world. This implies that they operate under entirely different server architectural rules. So for an example, story mode is the narrative focus, core quests available, open world enemies present, and precision combat. And just doing my little bit of research, I noticed that the MMO mode focuses on the social side of things, not too many narrative quests. There is no open world enemies, and it's a heavy PvP focus. But the most damning evidence comes from what happens when you switch to MMO mode. The system instantly imposes two massive game-changing limitations. Let me reiterate, the fatal exclusion that ordinary enemies no longer appear in the open world when you are in the MMO mode. Now, bear with me here when I say this. If you remove the story, you remove the side quests, all the open world PvE enemies, you have officially eliminated the core, persistent leveling loop that defines every traditional MMORPG from World of Warcraft to even Final Fantasy XIV. The developers themselves has confirmed that the emphasis in this segregated MMO mode is clearly on social interaction. The purpose of this mode is not to progress your character through shared combat, it is overall to just facilitate social hubs, trading, and large-scale PvP. So the multiplayer does exist, but it's highly structured and quite contained. So during the story mode, you can definitely do co-op, which allows you to bring up to 3 friends to share item collections, complete co-op marked events, and master challenging bosses. The larger scale intensive multiplayer features are almost universally instanced. First, the social and persistence. You can form massive guilds up to 100 players and engage in non-combat social activities like different performances or reputational based mini games. Then there's the structured PvP. This is where that high fidelity combat system truly shines in a competitive environment. There's the arena duels, there's the guild worlds, and overall there's the perception forest mode. The strategic decision to house the most population demanding activities and instance environments is a necessary engineering choice to guarantee the low latency performance that is required for the game's precision combat. They designed the combat first, and the multiplayer had to basically yield to its technical demands. So after playing for my first few hours, and my verdict is very definitive. Where Winds Meet is a triumph of design and technical execution, but it's not the genre that it claims to be. It succeeds wildly in its primary endeavor, creating a stunning, immersive wuxia action RPG. The combat depth, the freedom of movement, and the environmental complexity are best in class. So now that brings me to the question, who is this game for? We covered what is the game for, but now we need to figure out who is this game for. And I'm here to be able to tell you that exact answer. If you are a fan of action RPGs and Wuxia, this right here is absolute cinema. Absolute must play. If you want that challenging, skill-based combat and a deep individual narrative journey, the story mode is quite phenomenal. But on the other hand, that duality, the duality of man right here, if you are a traditional MMORPG player, then you would definitely need to tweak your expectations when coming into this game. Because no, this is not some seamless communal leveling experience. The MMO content is a competitive and social layer that operates around the edges of the core experience. Where Winds Meet represents a new archetype, a superior action RPG with an extensive segmented multiplayer overlay. They broke the traditional MMO mode to achieve this level of combat fidelity, and honestly, in my opinion, it was well worth the sacrifice. But hey, let me know what you guys think about Where Winds Meet in the comment section below. Do you think that the future of MMO like genre is really gonna have something to prosper? Hit the like button, subscribe to the channel for more deep dives, and as always, Outcast, I want you to stay safe out there. This has been your host, KSTTV, signing out. Peace.